Good afternoon, and welcome to Keys to Widespread Clinical Communication System Adoption, a webinar tweet chat combo from healthsystemcio.com, sponsored by Mobile Heartbeat. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. My name is Anthony Guerra. I'm the editor-in-chief of healthsystemcio.com, and I will be your moderator today. We're having a simultaneous tweet chat hosted by Kate Gamble, our managing editor and director of social media. And you can participate in a separate browser or on your phone by using the hashtag HSCIOchat, or you can simply view the tweet chat in the media viewer panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll also be using the Q&A panel today, which you can use to send in your questions as they occur to you. Leave the default set to all panelists, and we will take those later in the program. And you can download the deck by using the URL on your screen. It's at the bottom of some of our slides, and it's also been sent out in the chat box. Just so you see how we're going to spend our time today, first we're going to hear from our featured speaker, Andy Draper, CIO with the Continental Division of HCA, and then we will have our Q&A, and also participating in our Q&A will be Mike Detjen, COO with Mobile Heartbeat. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Andy Draper. Andy, thanks for joining us today.
Good afternoon, and it's morning here in Denver, Colorado. It's 70 degrees for the high, and driving in today, we saw snow-capped mountains. So it always happens right around mid-September, so I think it'll be a good ski season's coming up. We're hopeful. I have a few slides, as you mentioned. I also have Eric Gerber in the room, who is our clinical informaticist, one of the leads for this program, and Patty Fortifor, who is our director over clinical informatics, who also led the rollout of this program. First of all, I've been with HCA for about 8 years now. I was CIO in Houston and then moved to Denver 4 years ago. And we have a couple just housekeeping items. Number one, Mobile Heartbeat is the solution we acquired and rolled out, and we'll talk a lot about that. It's been fantastic. And then number two, HCA, as most health systems, often picks a different proper noun. And so you'll hear the words iMobile in this presentation. Mobile Heartbeat is the technology. iMobile is the rollout term that we're using. And also I want to mention that this marks our second year of having Mobile Heartbeat as part of the family, so we'll talk more about that. So Health One and the HCA Continental Division, HCA has 180 hospitals and just recently acquired Mission Health in Asheville this week. And we are organized in groups. And so our group is the Continental Division. It is in Denver market. We're the leading market share in Denver, about 30%. And we also have Wesley Medical Center, which is a large health system in Wichita with many sites, in a children's hospital, adult hospital. So our total division net revenue is around $4 billion. We have 10 hospitals, 2 children's hospitals, 500 physicians in employment, a medical staff of about 5,000, 12,000 employees, 12 to 14,000 employees. We have over 100 sites of care, including freestanding EDs, urgent care, etc. And so the reason this is important for this conversation is we have an enterprise, as most large health systems do, and we needed a solution that looked to be able to immediately deploy and scale across an enterprise and across all these different care settings. So the problems that we are trying to solve are common across healthcare, and for many years there's been a demand for secure messaging. But then in addition to that, in communicating back and forth to the care team, we needed to provide clinical value. So we looked at showing the ADT of the patient, where the patient is, the unit, the floor, the bed. It's integrated with our nurse call system. we needed to, we wanted to consolidate all the alerting into a common platform. That would help improve the quality of care at the bedside unit. There's numerous studies, and HCA's done a couple around alert fatigue. So we wanted to create a platform that put alerts in a common place, put an essential set of clinical data in a common place, and that common place is the phone. And really, as I've said many times, it's not rocket science. You know, 10 years ago, the first iPhone came out, and now look where we are. We've got more capacity in that, and technology and memory in that iPhone than they had on the Apollo 13 mission. So we wanted to also build a mobile platform, and we did this because we want to reduce the time the physicians spend in the computer and the time the nurses spend in the computer. We have bedside monitors in hallways and carts and in the rooms, but nursing is a mobile profession, and just ask them how many steps they get each day. And so we wanted to recognize that, and that scale that would go from a nurse who would be in a unit through the hospital, perhaps into the freestanding ED. We needed to accommodate all that. We wanted a solution to look at new functions, and one of the things we'll talk about at the end is what's next. And so we'll tell you about some of the ideas we have after that. Because once you have an ADT and some clinical lab, you can begin to ask, what other data can we put on the phone? And then once you put other data on the phone, we can build an API with mobile heartbeat and put other applications on top of that. We wanted to create competitive advantage. In the United States today, there is Epic and Cerner, and we have Meditech, and we needed a solution that was scalable and cost-efficient and highly reliable, and that is mobile heartbeat. And on the physician side, we've looked at and we've acquired Patient Keeper for that mobile platform. So we also needed to be cost-efficient because the times are changing, and we needed to make sure we were in a good, scalable, not just from an architecture or from a use case scenario, but financially as well. So HCA went out to the market years ago and began to look at different choices. Tiger Text, Volti was considered. There's a Patient Safe Solutions in San Diego. We looked at Vocera. All these solutions are very unique, and what we wanted to do was look at a solution that would scale and would be enterprise ready, and I'll explain enterprise ready in a couple slides. So we selected mobile heartbeat, and years ago we were doing a rollout of mobile heartbeat across different hospitals in HCA, and then in the wisdom of the leaders in Nashville, the decision was made to, hey, let's quit dating and let's get married. And so there was a deal struck 2 years ago as the anniversary. It's been a great marriage, and so now Mobile Heartbeat is part of the HCA family of companies. HCA has tremendous family of companies. You know, there's the Health Trust Purchasing Group, there's Parallon Technology Solutions, there's Patient Keeper, Mobile Heartbeat, there's orthopedic solutions. So what HCA is beginning to get into is where we see a competitive advantage and a best-of-breed application, we want to date, and then if it's the right thing, we want to get married. And so I put a quote here. This is from Milton Johnson, who's our chairman and CEO, about Mobile Heartbeat, and this was done at the Technology Summit in Nashville a couple weeks ago. And we have tremendously engaged clinical leaders and administrative leaders, and they looked at Mobile Heartbeat and they said, we want to see how this works. And once they saw it, they said, we want it, and we want to roll this out and scale this to 180 hospitals PDQ, which is what we're doing right now. So where are we? The functionality of Mobile Heartbeat is very powerful, and here's a couple of quick screenshots, and I'll ask Eric and Patty to jump in any time as well. So secure messaging in spades, and we'll talk about a few of the workflows that we have for that. You can press a button and also talk to the nurse or the doctor. We have integrated that into Nurse Call and into the Cisco phone system, which we'll talk about. We have the EMR integration, AD integration, full hospital directory. We've created care team roles so that the ED physician doesn't need to know which pediatrician's on call. We can create a model where they can send a message to the pediatric group on call and get to the right physician who is signed in. And I think our CNIO said it very well, and I want to emphasize this quote, which is, mobile heartbeat brings together the entire care team. At any time, anyone in the care team will know who is the nurse, the case manager, the therapist. This helps with, of course, communication in a large and complex hospital across multiple floors, multiple units. It helps with all of these questions. What does the patient need to be discharged? What does the patient need post-admission? What does the patient need post-surgery? And so we believe we've got now a unified care team communication tool with mobile heartbeat, and it's proven to be true. I want to talk briefly about the architecture behind mobile heartbeat, and on the bottom we have the enterprise architecture, and with that we've got integration into the Active Directory system. We've used iPhones as our platform. We could talk about that. We've got it in the unified communication system. We're a Cisco health system, health company, full integration in the call manager and into the phones across the hospitals. We also did a lot of Wi-Fi upgrades with Cisco in order to prepare for this. We've got a hospital directory integration. We've got nurse call integration. We've got care team integration through the nurse call application and the nurse call assignment piece. We have interfaces with HL7 for lab and for ADT through Meditech, and then I'll show you some of the analytics that we're able to do as well. So when I mean enterprise scale, I want to emphasize a couple things. This is a 4-month rollout. This is how we do it. One of the benefits of being part of an 180 hospital system is it is a machine, and it is very awesome to see how this works. We start in March, we roll out in June, and we're live at 1,000 beds in 2 days. In this kickoff, we talk about we got to get the iPhones ordered. We order those through Insight, and we kit them so that they are prepared when they arrive at the hospital. When they arrive at the hospital, we can even customize the wallpaper. So the phone, when it goes on 7 North, shows 7 North, so that when the nurse picks up the phone and he sees, hey, I've got 7 North, but I actually got rotated down to 5 West, they know where the home phone would go. Mobile Heartbeat also has a desktop application, which is important for the unit secretaries to be engaged. HCA uses the AirWatch. We've integrated this with AirWatch mobile device management tool. We've got Cisco integration, as I've mentioned. We deploy charge stations across the units. Let me talk a little bit about Wi-Fi. We get the network team deeply involved and look at the Wi-Fi connection in the local area network, and also because we've organized Mobile Heartbeat to be deployed in big chunks of 30, 50 hospital groups at a time, we're actually hosted out of our Fort Worth data center for a group of hospitals here in the central part of the U.S. And so there's massive communication going on between the hospital, the Cisco and the hospital, to Mobile Heartbeat, our installation in Fort Worth, to through our call manager based in Salt Lake, and it all works extremely well. It's really quite amazing to be part of that. Lots of training, building the roles and users, and then on day 160, we're ready to go live. And that go live occurs very rapidly, and that's one of the benefits that we wanted when HCA was selecting a partner like Mobile Heartbeat. We needed to have it scale like we've just described, but also scale means big scale rollout. So I'll describe some of that. In 2016, we rolled out, as a first wave, a large adult, which is, I'd say, about 600 beds, and a children's hospital, which is about 150 beds. That took a week. In 2017, we got a little faster, and we rolled out 2 large hospitals, Swedish and Skyridge, both around 300 to 500 beds. Both of those were done in a week's time, 4 or 5 days, plus some optimization. This year, we did 3 large hospitals and 2 small hospitals. The large hospital, Wesley Medical Center, 1,000 phones, 800 beds, 2 days. It's really a testament to the technology. I always say people, process, technology. Everything worked well together. The application's outstanding. The network was reliable. The people and the training were amazing. The process and workflow for preparation was amazing. We can talk about all that. So what is the results? And I'm going to get into some slides here with the results. So as we talked about, when you look at how care teams communicate right now, it's, hollering around a corner. It's called the unit secretary. It's put your SpectraLink down when it's not working and walk to the unit. And what we're able to do with Mobile Heartbeat is really connect all these different people around the patient. And so it's a patient-centered communication team. All the therapists, the phlebotomist, the hospitalist, the ED physician who did the admission, the nurses, of course, on the floor, the dietitians. And when a patient is in a bed, the nurse can simply literally press a button and communicate with all of them at once and organize their care. So that takes a lot of time savings. Now, some CFOs may say, great, you just saved me 10 FTEs, I'll take those, please. And the answer is no. Those are higher use activities now. Nursing always talks about practicing at the top of the license. So rather than having nurses chase paperwork or put down a broken phone, they're now able to communicate in a method that the world is using now, and it's much faster. So that time is more time at the bedside and more time talking with the patient and the family. And we've seen that, and I may ask Patty here as we get, or Eric, as we get towards the end of the slides to talk about some anecdotes around time savings and what that's been for nurses. Okay, so let me show some results. So this is our division view, our multi-hospital system in Denver and in Wichita. And this is over time from 2018. And it looks at the usage, and I just want to describe a couple of things. First, if you look at the volume on the left scale, this is text volume really per day that's being tracked. The different colors here are the different hospitals. So the green that starts out on the left side that continues to peak and trend is PSL, which we're going to go deeper into to look at what hospitals, what users in each hospital are using the tool and how they're using it. So you see here, there's a dip. Well, the dip is the weekend, and you can kind of see dips in between there, which may be a holiday or something. But overall, you can see that if we drew a line, that the usage has gone from lower to greater. So let me give you some examples. In the month of August of this year, in our group of hospitals, we have 943,000 text messages being exchanged through Mobile Heartbeat. Through the application, we have 500,000 calls being made and another 500,000 being received. We've got about 10,185 unique users across all these hospitals that are using the application. This is tremendous. Let me tell you a couple things as a CIO. One of the things that I'm always worried about is the adoption curve. And some vendors can overpromise and underdeliver, and we've all been bit by that. I have never had a problem with Mobile Heartbeat, and I'm not just saying that because they're at the Thanksgiving table with the HSA family. I have never had a problem with Mobile Heartbeat with a physician or a CEO or a CFO coming to me and saying, it didn't say what you told me it was going to do. The only thing I get about mobile heartbeat is, can I get more? And so the answer is yes. And so what we're doing is we looked at how do we deploy this in the freestanding EDs. And the amount of phones that we've ordered in each hospital, we always estimated to be enough. So at Swedish Medical Center, a large hospital, we ordered around 600. We've ordered an additional 200. The physicians come to us that are in the hospital and they say, hey, clinical informatics team, how do I, as an ED physician, communicate to the hospitalist group? Because that hospitalist group is often changing. And, you know, in the world of hospital medicine today, you can have a hospital group have assigned patients, but the hospitalist physician can actually change within an hour in order to manage a work-life family issue, or, you know, call was changed in the morning. Well, the ED doctor doesn't know that. The schedule that's viewed in the morning may already be wrong by 9 a.m. And so what we wanted to do is create workflows so that the physician can say, hey, I just need the pediatric team, and we'll show you how the pediatric team assigns on their phone. So and very consistent growth, consistent usage, consistent call quality, the messages get through. It's really been a fantastic partnership. Okay, so we've got on the previous slide here consistent growth, and as you look over on the right-hand side, these additional lines are the other hospitals that have come on board, and you can kind of see here on the right-hand side, it starts and then it very rapidly scales. So within 72 hours at Wesley Medical Center, we were up to 30,000 messages a day. They're now at, if I look at my numbers, Wesley now 60 days old is about 162,000 messages. Fantastic. Okay, so what? So who's sending what to whom and what are they seeing? So on the left here is one hospital, Presbyterian St. Luke's, which has been around and using mobile heartbeat now for about 2 years. And you could see this is from this year, the data from this year I pulled. So you can see who is sending the text question. Rapid response nurse, house supervisor, unit clerk, x-ray tech, therapist. These are different care team members. In the middle of the slide is leadership. So one of the challenges in engaging with millennials, and really any generation, I think we all have our picadillos as we get older, is what's going on? How is my career being advantaged? What is the hospital doing today? And what we found is the chiefs really, because nurses, while administrators look at email, and all of us who are outside of the clinical world are very email-centric and text message-centric, the ability for an administrator, a CNO, to send a message to the care team is really limited because that nurse may not get that email until she logs in the next day. She's busy taking care of patients and doing shift transfers. So one of the benefits has been now the directors of nursing, the CNOs, the CEOs can broadcast communications to everyone, and they're able to engage their employees. And we've seen a benefit in our employee engagement scores. So let me tell you another example. We were, as we were rolling this out at one large hospital, which is really 3 hospitals in Denver, Aurora, the CEO came to us and said, hey, can we get this turned on during our employee engagement cycle? And so what a tremendous benefit is to improve the communication of nurses and give nurses a win right away. And so we were able to do that. So who's receiving texts? Registered nurses. 52% of all the texts sent at PSL are going to nurses. Respiratory therapists, patient care text. And I want to highlight on this right side, it's about 8%, but it's in the system, it's called licensed independent provider. that is a nurse practitioner or a physician or advanced practice nurse. And what we're finding is in many cases that those members, when they're in the house, when they're in the hospital, are, you know, part of the care team, and we're communicating more and more with them about all kinds of different issues, and they enjoy it as well. We have done some training around etiquette. So and I'll just give an anecdote, and if Eric or Patty wants to jump in. When we're in a text environment in a personal way, my wife may text me something, you know, go get the milk. Okay, I'll reply back, okay. Well, we don't want to do that. Doctors do not need that. When a doctor or advanced practice provider sends a message, the answer is, I don't need confirmation, I've given you a direction. Now, orders are not allowed under Joint Commission, so orders, HCA has chosen not to allow orders to occur through the system. But we needed to invest in how to manage the etiquette so that the communication tool doesn't become noisy, it's really just effective. And I'm looking at Patty and Eric, do you want to add anything to this?
Well, I'll just say that the application itself does have a read receipt that shows immediately when the person has received it, and it stays in a non-read condition, a yellow text, if you will, until that finally happens. So once the staff, the users in general, see how reliable that indicator is, they no longer feel the need to send thanks. It's always an ongoing battle. We're always trying to teach our nurses to have wonderful bedside manner and to be as polite and customer service driven as possible. So there is still some of that, of course. And some, you know, care team members appreciate that follow-up, but in most instances, that is definitely not necessary. There's no doubt that the application itself has been the most revolutionary change from a communication standpoint in healthcare within the last 10 years.
Let's go into some lessons learned, and then we're almost done for wrapping up. Lessons learned. And I will say these words, but I'll look to Patty and Eric to provide some color here. We have about 3-4 minutes left for this part. Deploy to non-provider clinicians first, then follow up with providers. So you want to talk about a comment around that?
Sure. So non-providers, that includes all your staff in the hospital, nurses, ancillary services. We get them up to speed so that they are very comfortable with the app, and then we go back and we look at provider groups and which would benefit the most. Hospitalists, looking at the EDs and optimizing workflows around all that communication.
And then we've talked about messaging etiquette, Patty and Eric, but also physicians. The policy within HCA has been to not provide an iPhone to them. They could use their own device called BYOD. Do you have any comments on that? And then also just go into what you learned with hospitalists and intensivists.
Our original deployment plan included having a significant number of devices owned by each facility that would be for those licensed independent practitioners to utilize, and that led to, as we maybe all do, carrying multiple devices around. So if you're a surgeon and you're in scrubs all day and starting to pull your scrub pants down, you really want only one device. And they quickly realized that it works so well across any platform that they could have it on their own device in a secure format. It didn't interrupt any of their other workflow, and they really want to move towards that. We call it a bring your own device model, and it definitely is working much better for the physician satisfaction standpoint.
One of the other challenges I'm going to jump into here so we emphasize time is the workflow. So I'll just kind of summarize this, and then Eric, you've been involved deeply this past couple of weeks in optimizing it at a busy ED. So we're looking, when we go into a hospital, we of course look at all the non-provider deployments, nursing techs, et cetera. We've found a win around the ED to the inpatient side, particularly the hospitals, particularly around facilitating the admission. You know, in our hospitals, 70 to 80% of the admissions come through the ED, the hospital admissions come through the ED. So that handoff between the ED physician and the hospitalist on the floor, the ED doc may not know where that hospitalist is, may not know who that hospitalist is because that hospitalist group has changed their doc in between the shift. So that's a big one. I'm going to ask Eric to elaborate that on our next slide. Of course, nursing and provider, and then the other clinical staff. The word generic here really is, well, I should have used more like a common rollout. These are some of the, when we rolled this out to our hospitals, these were the quick workflows that we wanted to attack. When we went to Wesley, we expanded the workflows immediately, and one of the benefits of mobile heartbeat is, like I said, the only problem that I've had to solve as a CIO, thankfully, is more. Give me more. Give me more phones. Give me more workflows. My radiologists want to use this thing. My anesthesiologists want to use this thing. And these are the physicians that are in the house, in the hospital, doing the care team. Do you want to talk about that, Eric? And then I'm going to show everyone the dynamic role concept. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I think it really all evolved from the physicians saw the excitement with all of the staff within the hospital using this new communication tool, and they wanted to learn more about it. I don't think that we had really planned on rolling physicians into this application as much as we are now. Once they not only saw the benefit of having a portable contact directory that was secure to everybody in the hospital, actually shows who is on duty, logged into the app, and the ability for them to identify what they're using other apps or websites that track who's on call and so forth, they really saw the benefit to their own workflow. No longer waiting on hold to get in touch with the main care team for some of their patients, and that could be the dietitian, it could be the bedside nurse. They can simply send a text asking for follow-up or confirmation on something that they need. And then likewise, when they have it on their phone, they're at the bedside, they no longer need to go to a computer to log in, to look up lab results. Some of that data is already immediately there in the application. So really going down that integrated mobile personal health record style workflow, this is definitely the foundation for that. Then I think that really led into the physician-physician communications that they're currently using a variety of old technology for, like pagers, for an admission process. So now they simply look for who is in a specific role, who is my intensivist in the ICU that's taking admissions today. Send them a text, hey, I've got somebody ready for you in the ED, and then that person can call directly back to have that appropriate voice conversation handoff, ensure everything is being managed appropriately for that patient. Really, this is the next foundation, I think, for moving away from dashboard-style technology, driving people to a laptop and giving them that mobile portability to not only see data, but also to have that alert come to them. Most of our clinicians in the physician world don't have time to sit in front of a dashboard, are on the move, patient to patient, not typically carrying a laptop or wanting to log in one PC after another. And so this will really give us the ability to build upon, to send those alerts directed at the appropriate care teams.
When you say pagers, Eric, I always think about Miami Vice and Sonny Crockett and I think it was Ricardo Tubbs here, my Wikipedia tells me, of using pagers. I guess there are pagers in this world. Hopefully mobile heartbeat as part of its mission, Google is do no evil, maybe mobile heartbeat's mission is eliminate pagers, but we definitely are turning off pagers by the buckets now. I want to emphasize these are real screenshots taken yesterday. So CCPC is our hospitalist group here on the left, and you can see we've categorized those into hospital and then the unit that they're on. And then this is a directory of the physicians, which is organized through the AD integration. And then this is an example of a communication to a physician who's a hospitalist about, from a nurse saying, hey, I want to talk to you about admitting a patient. Okay, so I want to just summarize here. What we've learned in our shops is there is scalability, stability, tremendous demand, which is always a happy thing for a CIO to solve. I'd rather be solving those than other problems. So in conclusion, Anthony, I don't have a slide here, but I want to emphasize what's next for us. So I want to speak about our division and then HCA. So HCA has 180 hospitals. We've done 200, in 2018, 50. We'll do another 50 across HCA next year. That'll be close to 150 by the end of a 3-year rollout period. These rollouts, as I've talked about, are 2-day events. And then one of the other things we're going to be doing is, as I said, and this is my last comment, now that we have the ADT on the phone and some lab data and potentially other clinical data, we're looking at what apps can we build on top of there. Incident reporting tools so that nurses don't have to go into the computer to document a potential fall or a fall risk. How do we improve quality? Because now that we've got this base set of data, we can go to the nurse and say, here's some data now. How can we reduce time for you spent in the computer documenting so you have more time at the bedside and improve quality of care? And in conclusion, when we did that early this year, the answer was, can you put a way to create an incident report on the phone? And so now through APIs and the cooperation in Nashville and Mobile Heartbeat, we're looking at building those kind of apps. So that's it, Anthony. I'll conclude there.
Very good. All right, Andy, thank you so much for that presentation. Lots of good information, and I'm looking forward to our Q&A. So let's jump right in, Andy. First question. What has been a key to physician adoption of care team communications? Kind of a general one, but what comes to mind?
Well, I'll say something quickly and then ask Eric and Patty. The nurses. And you give nurses communication tool and they immediately need to connect to the doctor and get guidance. Would you add anything to that?
I really believe that they saw how effective the tool was working for their care team, taking care of their patient, and they wanted to have that same functionality. That really drove the initial hospitalists and those primary bedside style physicians into the application. And as they started communicating with them themselves, they realized that this could be used for the console for really any communication workflow.
All right, very good. Next question. Has anyone taken a Lean Six Sigma approach in determining improved clinical care team communications? Was what needed improving and then selecting a system of choice? So a little confused wording there, but about the Lean Six Sigma approach in determining improved care team communications. Yes, what was needed? So, what was needed, and then in selecting your system. Go ahead.
Let me say a couple of summary points, and then if Patty wants to add anything. So one of the benefits of the application is the scalability and the stability. One of the benefits of being part of a large health system like HCA is we have lessons learned from all different parts, and those are led by Six Sigma. They're led by clinical informaticists and just smart nurses, and those findings are put into what HCA refers to as a toolkit. And that toolkit is the document that's used to help support the go-live. So every hospital that we went to, we benefited from the 100 hospitals that went before us, figuratively, and what they learned. So the workflows that I said we prescribed in the WebEx, how do you look between communicating to nurses and phlebotomists? How do you deal with ED to the hospitalist? How do you deal with discharge communication? Those workflows have all been identified by Six Sigma folks, clinical informaticists, and just smart, hardworking nurses. Patty?
Yeah, so our initial facility that went live in 2016 was a beta site. So there were a lot of lessons learned from that site, and then our facilities that went live since then, we have learned that the best way to evaluate this tool is to look at pre-go-live metrics and post-go-live metrics, and we're in the process of doing that now. It's continually evaluating optimization and reevaluating workflows, and some of the things we look at is transport routines. How does the transporter get get connected with the nurse and ask if the patient's ready. There's really cool functionality in mobile heartbeat to be able to do that so that you don't go and pick up the wrong patient. So as we move forward, there's a lot of things that we're going to be looking at as far as metrics go and evaluating the really awesome power of this mobile technology.
And the slides that I showed related to the metrics all come from Tableau. So part of the architecture of mobile heartbeat is we have all the mobile heartbeat messaging data and call data being funneled into the HCA clinical data warehouse, which then we're able to create a data mart of mobile heartbeat data, and that's what we're looking at.
Very good, Mike. Let me bring you in here. Now, before the acquisition by HCA, you were serving other customers, I would imagine, and since the acquisition, you still continue to serve other and new customers. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Anthony. Yep. Yeah. So we continue to be, while we're a wholly owned subsidiary of HCA, and clearly, having a lot of success with that group, we're also making our software available to other health systems and having a lot of success out there as well.
So tell me a little bit about your experience working with different health systems and many different health systems. What are some of the common issues you're seeing out there, the common problems that need to be solved, and the common challenges around this type of issue?
Around the introduction of a mobile platform?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and I think Andy touched on some of these elements as part of kind of his prez, and kind of a lot of the lessons learned that have been refined over the years by he and his team. But when you think about mobility, quite often we're the first application that drives the mobility platform introduction into a health system, right? So what comes with that is your network, ready to handle kind of all this extra traffic on there? So you got to have a little checkpoint with the health system and say, okay, where is your wireless network? Is it ready to handle voice over IP calling? Is it ready to handle the volume, right? And then the next question you're going to have is, okay, which device and how are you? What's your device strategy for going out there? HCA mentioned that. They've chosen iPhones, and they publicly declared that they're going to be buying 100,000 iPhones as part of this rollout. From our standpoint, we support both iPhones as well as Android devices and even a desktop solution, right? So you have to think about what is your device strategy going to be that goes along with the software. And then, it then quickly becomes like, how fast can you go? Because, a communication system is as valuable as the number of people that are using it. And, what Andy mentioned is HCA has kind of picked up on that. And they, when they go live, it's like the entire facility goes up in 2 days. And that's what, we encourage with our customers is when you get it in, the demand curve is going to get very steep very quick. So get ready for that and be prepared to move quickly.
Very good. Excellent. All right, let's go back to you, Andy. Was there a strategy or tactic used during implementation that did not pan out as planned and changed to be successful?
Yeah, this is Patty. When we rolled out Wesley, big facilities, 700-800 beds, we spanned that deployment over 4 or 5 days. Same with Aurora. We went in the first day of go live and we said we need to get these in the hands quicker. So we reevaluated our deployment plan, our timeline, and as Andy said previously, went from 4 or 5 days down to 2 days, and sort of got the mop out for the last 2 days and rounded and looked at some workflows, and it was one of the lessons that we learned that people want these out on floors and in their hands quickly.
So your lesson learned was shortening your rollout.
Correct. Big bang. We call it big bang here.
That's an interesting change, right? You don't expect that, but very good. What EHRs were used and how did the integration interface go? Was one easier or more successful than another?
Well, the HCA hospitals have Meditech, but I think Mike has experience in Cerner and Epic shops as well. So it's, I would say, technology agnostic. Mike can answer that.
Yeah, that's accurate, Andy. You know, we work across the different EMRs and tap into traditional HL7, you know, standard interfaces for a lot of that communication.
And Anthony, HCA's acquired hospitals that have Cerner and Epic in them, and this will be part of that platform as well.
Very good, very good. All right, let's hear from Andy first and then Mike on this. You touched on this, Mike, in terms of common issues or things you have to have in place before you roll this out. Do you have any issues with messages being missed due to poor Wi-Fi signal? Andy?
I have not heard of messages being missed. I've heard there are sometimes voice quality issues. That's not related to the mobile heartbeat application. It's related to the Cisco infrastructure and, you know, the local area network and how we built our communications network across different, HCA has 4 different regional data centers. So a call at Wesley Medical Center in Kansas is going to Fort Worth, it's getting connected to mobile heartbeat, it goes to Salt Lake City, gets connected to Cisco and back. And all that happens immediately. We had a couple of bumps for 3 weeks at Wesley where some call quality was fuzzy, but we added a circuit from Wesley to Fort Worth because there was so much traffic and volume on the network side, and that cleaned it up.
Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things we've done from a software standpoint is we built in, you know, various redundancy mechanisms to address this. So, you know, you're going to have dead spots, whether, you know, if you're around radiology and then lead line walls and whatnot, it's going to happen. So if you're out of Wi-Fi, but then you come back into Wi-Fi, we'll retry those messages and those alerts and notifications and ensure you get them. So there's full traceability and redundancy across the messaging platform.
Very good. All right, next question. How does it do a cascade system? For example, floor nurse doesn't respond. Will it call the floor nurse manager? Andy?
Eric's nodding. So, and I want to say Eric and Patty sitting next to me are both nurses and both master prepared and clinical informaticists. So, Eric?
You know, we're using a Responder 5 product throughout our market here. It also does work with Hillrom very, very well. That's our Kansas hospital. And it does have an escalation path, and it's completely customizable based on the workflow of that unit by unit by unit. And so, yes, if the first person who is being alerted from the nurse call system doesn't answer, then after a certain amount of time, or depending on how it's set up, it will go to the second person and then to a third person. You can customize how many numbers of escalations you have and who that goes to. That can even be tailored on a shift-by-shift basis. So if your acuity is high and you have a lot of tech help and ancillary folks on the unit, you can plug them in. If it's a really lean time and you only have a couple nurses covering the unit, you can adapt to that as well. It works really well.
Also, the application has a green dot that shows the person's online, if you will. As Eric mentioned earlier, it also has a read receipt. And then the application also allows you to call. So if you're not getting a response for a text, you can immediately call.
Very good. I think you said yes to this when we talked a little bit about BYOD. Can the app be installed on a non-hospital-owned iPhone, and how is that managed, and what about HIPAA?
Well, we do that today for physicians that have Android or Apple, iOS, and it's HIPAA secure because it's a secure app.
Okay, very good. And you said it does this, another question about does it work on Android or iPhone only? It said it works on both, but you have selected iPhones. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah, as Mike mentioned, HCA just announced a 100,000 iPhone commitment with Apple, the largest health system commitment to Apple in the world. And so far, it's gone very well. You know, the PSL hospitals have iPhones. They're coming up on 3 years. The question is, do we refresh? You know, why haven't we? Another question we get asked is, okay, everyone's stealing your phones, right? Actually, no. And because these are Wi-Fi enabled, not cell phone enabled, they're dead when you walk out of a hospital. So I would say maybe a handful at PSL, 700 beds, and most of them have been, oops, I didn't know. You know, everyone's got a couple phones now, unfortunately. I see Eric here's got 3. So if they are lost, it's mostly they've mistakenly left the hospital. I've heard, you know. Now, if an employee has a bad behavior and steals the phone, that is an HR disciplinary process. That's not a technology problem.
Right. Kick that over to HR. That's all I say.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to incorporate this platform into any post-acute strategies that may exist?
We could. You know, people, process, technology, and, you know, you could underscore that by administrative will. So if there was a decision under a bundle payment program to say we needed to give it to a few selected skilled nursing facilities in order to manage the discharge of a total hit from a hospital or nursing home, we could absolutely do that. We could do it in the next hour. We would just need to, we could do it BYOD here in a matter of minutes. I mean, I'm being literal and serious. And then there's also, Eric wrote a note to me about mass casualties. So do you want to talk about that quickly?
Well, I'm not really the expert down there, but we did one of our major hospitals, Sunrise
in Vegas,
was a primary responder with the mass shooting that had happened down there, and they really emphasized the importance of having this tool deployed, their ability to communicate and deal with the unbelievable stress that put on that healthcare system, and how they were able to really immediately respond to all people involved and address that situation, and really just an amazing tool.
Yeah, and the beauty of that situation, which hit the news, is that since these are Wi-Fi enabled phones, they were not bogging down the cell towers. So the ability for them to communicate during that situation was beyond impressive.
Very good. All right. Before we get going, I just want to see, Mike, if you had any final thoughts.
No, I mean, just want to thank Andy and the team there for their participation here and sharing some of their thoughts. I mean, they're really just scratching the surface of all the hard work that has gone in, from that team as well as the other teams across HCA. So, just appreciate their time.
Excellent. All right, well, that's about all the time we had for today. When you close out of your WebEx window, you'll be taken to a post-event survey. If you could answer that, we'd appreciate it. Regarding continuing education, attending our webinars gets you 1 CEU towards the CHIME CHCIO certification program. So please let the CHIME know you were here, and if you've asked us to do so, we certainly will. If you need a certificate of attendance for another CEU program, you can use the final slide in this deck. You'll receive an email when our archive recording has been posted to our YouTube channel, and you can reach out to Nancy Wilcox from our team if you would like us to produce a webinar on the topic of your choice, and you could, of course, go to our website to see our upcoming schedule of events. So with that, I want to thank our panel, Andy Draper, Mike Detjen, and our special guest stars, Patty and Eric, for joining. And I want to thank our sponsor, Mobile Heartbeat, for making this event possible. So with that, everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.